Well, welcome to the Kibaki succession and our analysts with us, Peter Opondo, welcome back. And it's great to have you back. It's been a while, Kipchumba. And of course, you are part and parcel of the team of people seeking elective office, but coming to us this week with a legal analysis on this issue of defections. Welcome back. Let me start with a political perspective, Peter. Very interesting, just looking at the pattern of defections so far, and clearly indicating TNA and URP seem to have an upper hand. Your thoughts on this?
I actually don't think they have an upper hand. What is happening, and we were discussing before we went on air, is that actually no defection has happened. What we are having is that leaders are realizing where they belong ethnically and going back there. So we have not had a defection as yet. When the day you get a presidential candidate or presidential aspirant defecting to a party, that's when we will say we have a defection. As it is now, it's just politicians who are trying to survive, to assessing their chances and saying this, I can only survive within my ethnic group, the party that my ethnic group is going with to the polls. And so
But even then, because in some of these instances you see blocks that are known to vote in certain ways, so it may not necessarily be an ethnic factor because the constituents, for instance, would largely be from one group. So there's the perception of support for one party or another.
Yeah, politics is about reality as much as it is about perceptions. And that's really what is happening. These politicians are looking and saying, it looks like in this area, TNA is the party. If I'm in ODM, my chances of winning are very minimal. So what's the practical thing to do is to move to that political party.
Right, let me come to you, Kipchumba. Welcome on your thoughts on this, and particularly from a legal perspective, the spirit of the Constitution we voted in intended to ensure that people do not jump ship willy-nilly, that people base their campaigns on ideologies, on strong foundations, and yet now we're seeing that perhaps we seem to be in the same boat with these numbers. Tell us about that.
Well, I agree with Peter that in the real politic world, what matters is to get the right vehicle that will take you to the other side of the sea. And I think everybody is assessing their chances and wondering which political party can take me to the other side. If you look at all these candidates for governors, senators, MPs, and so forth, they have their beliefs and their ideologies and the things they would like to do in this country. But they have accepted that it looks like we don't believe in any political party per se, and there's no distinction in those parties. The only political party that exists is your community, or where your community is voting, or your voters are. So sometimes as the leader, although we say the leader shows the way, sometimes the leader needs to go where the people are so that he can begin leading the way. And that is the challenge that goes through. But
the leader is actually the follower.
Yes, exactly.
The Constitution then seems to be ahead of us.
Absolutely. In fact, and that's where I come now to the law. There are particular timelines, particularly for moving from one party to another. Initially, it was that 6 months down the line, if you combined the provisions of the Political Parties Act and the Elections Act, it would mean that 6 months down the line, any person who wanted to join a political party should be there 6 months down the line. But then the politicians actually never realized the first time, the sitting MPs, and now they realize that there will be mass defections. So they sat down, ganged up together, and reduced the timeline. In fact, to the extent that even as a lawyer, you can see clearly provisions that are conflicting. For example, if you tell me that you are going to submit the same day the nomination, the list of membership of a political party, and the nomination, the timelines for nominating under the political party and the day for submitting the names is the same, where is due notice? I mean, we wanted to cure the situation where you would jump from this party today, nominate someone, and jump to party X to go and nominate another person. But now that is not the situation in Kenya. We are back to the murky waters of people who are migrating from one party to another, in the morning nominating one party and in the afternoon another.
Yes, go ahead, Peter.
He just brought something very important there. What the law now says is that for you to be nominated by a political party to contest, you must have been a member of that party 60 days to the election day. You get the point? So 60 days to the election day, it means a party can stretch its nomination to just about maybe it's supposed to nominate the candidates by 45 days to the election. So maybe January, it's supposed to be January 18th. They do it on January 10th, which means some people can still defect even as late as that. So we've really not cured it.
Let's look at how enforceable is this? So you've got the requirements in place. We are saying they've been watered down to the extent that what we had intended to do as a nation has not been achieved. But are they enforceable?
Let me just add something there, that I remember even the debate to the extent that members of parliament are saying, just for this one time, these elections only, because they knew they wanted to keep the office up to January. And the timelines are enforceable because they are not there just for, like beauty or some sort. They are there for purpose of adherence. And so if you don't do the nominations in time, then it means that you do not qualify to field candidates in that elections. It's even worse for political parties that may have nominations that are marked by irregularities, and therefore they have to repeat. And if they do that nomination towards the end, they are likely to lose fielding any candidate in the coming elections.
Okay, so let's take a look at what we see happening. We've got the date of December for instruments of alliance to be declared. I think it's 4th December is the date. So that's going to be a very key date for this coming election.
I think it's going to be a very key date, and we say that because probably that's when we will know who is forming an alliance with who officially. And I think it will be, that's when I was saying we've not had defections. That's when we will see, not really defections, but alliances, pre-election alliances that will give us a pointer on how this election will go.
I am aware, Julie, that at the moment there is a lot of discussions, in boardrooms and so forth, between and among political parties as to who will be our friend, who will be the other. In fact, the reason why you saw TNA using the elections to, up their game was basically to see if they can attract more people to come and form coalition with them. But there are certain basics that people don't understand about coalition. First of all, that a pre-election coalition, if you want to benefit fully, you may have to move to a situation where you do joint nomination. That means on that day we will see, based on the agreements that people have signed, how many parties will do joint nomination, which means that if a nominee of a particular party wins, they will be fielded in that area. But second and most important...
I can already see that bringing huge issues.
Huge issues, because then some people might jump. But then the second and most important issue is that what will you gain if you join to a coalition agreement with another political party? You can only gain by saying, assuming party X, let me not use the real parties, X and Y are going to do a coalition agreement. So if X gives the presidency, Y can agree to say we'll give the deputy. But legally, Y cannot stand on Y party. So Y has to cross to go to be a deputy in X party, so that then the fielding of the other candidates are in different party. What happens if the coalition collapses after the elections?
Right, what does happen?
If it collapses, Y was the presidential candidate of this other party and became deputy, will remain with the president. Meanwhile, his coalition members in parliament can walk away. And by the way, we are in a coalition agreement. We are not like Italy, we are not like Israel, we are not like countries which are parliamentary system. If the coalition fails, president will continue with his work. He can even look for another party and come to a coalition agreement. That means there are no very serious consequences on coalition to make the president want to obey them. However, if you have donated the deputy president, perhaps you will say he's our representative there. And those are the challenges, of course, including that in the agreement you've said we are going to have a dispute resolution clause, you're going to share senior political appointments and so forth. But you see what Kenyans fear, and they ask us all the time as lawyers, what promise are you going to give that if we coalesce, and now talking about political parties, if our party from our region and this party from another region are going to come together, what promise are you going to give us that after the elections they are not going to break? And I can say there is no promise, because it can break and the presidency can continue and pick another coalition and move on.
There are no assurances. So
Yes.
it's dicey.
Yes.
It's dicey. Let me ask you, gentlemen, this is not an easy question, but as we close, paint a picture for us, a scenario. What do you see as likely scenarios when it comes to these movements?
I think the first thing you notice after the September by-elections is that TNA has become the party that everybody is talking about. Now, that is an advantage to Uhuru Kenyatta, because now all the other parties would want to come and talk to him, but he sort of like has a strong hand in the negotiations. But he also has a downside to it. He will attract so many candidates, very strong personalities. And we will have a repeat of the situation that we had for ODM in 2007, where during the nominations for the various elective seats, you have very strong personalities, very strong candidates,
All
seeking the
that
same
nomination.
position, and you have fallouts. The other thing also, that the scenarios that you can almost foresee, is that ODM and Raila Odinga will have to get a big catch sooner or later for him to convince Kenyans that he's still the person that he was in 2007. Remember, he has already lost Musalia Mudavadi, he has already lost William Ruto. Those are very strong constituencies. And now, if you notice, TNA is concentrating on consolidating Nairobi. So, once again, PNU and ODM were more or less balanced in Nairobi. But Uhuru Kenyatta is investing a lot of time and campaigns and strategies to take Nairobi. If so, ODM and Raila Odinga must do something to convince Kenyans that he still has the numbers to deliver how he did in 2007.
Right.
I see a situation after maybe 4th December. First, before that, what's happening is zoning of the country. So you have zoned the areas to TNA region, Wiper region, URP region, ODM region. Then after that, and UDF has not succeeded in creating a region per se. Now, if that happens, you will see again a cat and mouse game of the first party to move and catch a big party for coalition will trigger a huge movement, some kind of a migration, and you may even realize that if that happens, we may not need to go for runoff. But as it stands now, there is high chances that all these political parties are going to want to fill their person to the very end, and therefore we will be forced to a situation where there's a runoff. The other challenge is, as you see, political parties are beginning to be friendly to each other. I mean, the G7s are supposed to again think about being friendly to each other. So you are competing, but at the same time protecting yourself just in case you need this person in the next race. So there is a cat and mouse game, and that cat and mouse is on the running mate and the question of who starts coalition with who, so that it can trigger the movement.
Right. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Fascinating, and we'll certainly see it all happening in the months to come. Just before we close, of course, a shocking attack this morning and also this evening in Garissa. Your comments, just very briefly, to the country as people watch us tonight. Peter.
I think Kenyans need to be vigilant. This was expected. The moment the Kenyan troops got to Kismayu, that was expected, the reprisal attacks. And now it just means that we have to be very careful, we have to be vigilant, we have to be on the lookout, and we have to pray and hope that everything remains well.
Thank you, Peter.
I really think it's unfortunate that someone takes a child's life to compensate another life, because one life is not comparable to any other. And I really think that as a country we must fight this us versus them. It's not a question of just what happened yesterday, it's what happened also in Tana River and so forth. So I think we have to all accept that security is collective. We play a role ourselves in trying to root out this menace, but also as a country, I really still call for leadership. I don't know, the new Minister for Internal Security, does he have the strength and capacity to provide leadership that gives us confidence that we can go to the next elections without fearing that in polling stations there will be such kind of things and the whole country will be in trouble. So I think that's the assurance we need from government. And we are lucky to have a president who is retiring. He should then, therefore, because his interests in terms of succession are minimal compared to last elections, he must provide proper leadership when it comes to security of the country.
I think, Julie, one more thing that we need to, the message has to be clear. You saw what happened on Juja Road today. Immediately after that attack, a group of youths took, I mean, they were going to attack a mosque or something like that. I think if you do that, you're falling into the trap of whoever did that. And I think there needs to be restraint among Kenyans. Let us not take it into our hands. Let us follow the due process.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. And I think Peter has captured it. The purpose of all this is to create mayhem, chaos, and to divide. So we cannot let the attackers be successful. We must hold together. We must have restraint, and we must allow the government to do what it needs to do to provide security. But it must be said, there are people who have called the security, the police and the forces, when they've seen suspicious things, and people have been arrested as a result. Arms have been found. So please, as Peter has said, do be vigilant. As Kipchumba is saying, we call on the government, please, to ensure that this country is secure and to give leadership in this time of crisis. Much more on the way on Sunday Live. Please don't go away.